All right, well, I will call the meeting to order, and I'll ask Claudia if she would please call the roll of the board.
Good afternoon, everybody. President Atwater.
Present.
Director Millibar.
Present.
Director Samara. Director Palmer.
Here.
Director Martin.
Present.
Director Chang.
Here.
Director Anabdawi. And alternate director Lamoureux.
Here.
And I think you are filling in for Mr. Anabdawi today, is that correct?
That's correct.
Claudia, it seems like you're a little bit hard to hear. I don't know what's, there's some background noise there.
It's very echoey.
Yeah.
Try and turn on the microphone, Claudia, that's there, although it just projects the speaker within the room. Maybe it'll help it pick up. No.
No, it's still weak.
Claudia, I will help you as the meeting goes on here.
Yeah, you came out really clear. All right, well, why don't we, our first order is to go into closed session. We have one closed session item to start the meeting today, and we'll move into closed session now if we can. And Claudia, if you could do that, I appreciate it.
And Claudia, just to clarify, we didn't receive a request for public comment, right? On this item.
We have not received any public comment requests.
Thank you.
Well, it is 2 o'clock now, so we're going to reconvene into open session. And before we move forward, I'll ask Josh, our legal counsel, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Thanks, President Atwater. No reportable action.
Great. Now I want to provide an overview of the public comment process before we start open session. If you wish to provide live public comment, please submit your request to the link online request form noted on the agenda. Please make sure you submit the form by 2:15. We're also accepting written comments, and all written comments should be emailed to Ms. Claudia Rodriguez before the conclusion of the meeting. They will be included in the record of this meeting. And with that, Claudia, can you bring up the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance? There you go. If you will, just please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's always hard to get that pace on these Zoom calls or room calls. All right, we'll move forward now to public comment. I asked Claudia, do we have anybody who would like to provide public comments?
President Atwater, at this time, we have not received any public comment requests.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll ask that on the agenda items in the future. We'll move on to agenda item 6, the approval of the minutes for June 17th, our regular meeting in June. Do we have a motion?
I have got just one comment. I believe, Claudia, you have corrected that those absences that were marked for me under the item 6 of last time.
My apologies, that was an artifact from just the meeting minutes from the previous month.
Okay, I don't think I was even absent at that point. Okay, thank you. Make sure
Motion to
the last one before, make sure I wasn't marked absent as well, because I don't think I've had any absences.
All right, so that was, it is corrected in these minutes. Is that confirmed? Got it. Do we have a motion then?
I move we
Yes,
approve.
motion.
All right, and Tony's seconding it. So
Yes.
Claudia, please call the roll. We have a motion in a second. Yes.
Director Millibar,
Yes.
Director Stamera,
Aye.
Director Palmer,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Chang,
Yes.
and Director Lamoureux.
Yes.
Great. We'll move on to agenda item 7, the consent calendar. We have no items on the consent calendar. So I'll skip down to agenda item 8, discussion items. And first turn on 8A is the July DCA monthly report, and ask our executive director, Graham, to make a presentation.
President Atwater. I would like to just highlight a few things within the monthly report, so we'll work our way through it. Claudia is sharing on screen. First, I'd like to stop in section 1, work performed, highlight a few things. Over under the administrative side of the sheet, we have been planning activities for future hybrid public meetings, and so we're actually in our board space today and experimenting with a couple of different configurations to have an effective hybrid meeting. I think it's been it's working out pretty well, but we've also identified some things that we want to keep working on and try and improve going forward. But look forward to the opportunity to have a hybrid public meeting. At this point, we are targeting September, but of course we have to see how things go with COVID and what's developing here within the region. But that is our current plan, and so we're going to keep working on the technology situation here and working out the kinks. On the engineering side, we have been steadily progressing the engineering project reports. We've got a revised set of drafts that have been prepared for both the Central and Eastern Corridor package as well as the Bethany Reservoir alternative package. So a lot of nice advancement there, and continuing to work very closely with the environmental team on the environmental impact analyses. On the fieldwork side, as of June 30th, we completed our spring exploration program. This was a total of 15 borings and 20 CPTs that were completed. There's still work yet to do to finalize the logs, or at least to draft up the logs, incorporate the laboratory testing, and so on and so forth. So that work will continue on. The next item I wanted to jump to, Claudia, is section 3 budget. So here is a summary of our budget through the end of the fiscal year, FY 2021 fiscal year. As I'm sure you recall, we have a total DCA budget of 27 million for the last fiscal year, and we're coming in around 24.63 is our estimated projected completion. So there, the good news is we're coming in. We've been tracking this underrun, I know, and have been updating the board periodically on this, but it's looking now as a projected underrun of about 2.4 million. So I'm happy to report that. And in addition, we've delivered on all of our key deliverables, met schedule timelines, so on and so forth. So I think that's a very good outcome. Next, I would like to jump to, again with the budget, but the histogram plot, please, with showing the plan versus cumulative invoiced. Yep. So here you can see it really is starting to illustrate itself for the past couple of months, March, April, May, and I suspect the same in June. The DCA has been invoicing very similar to projected. And so I think at this point, our projections are honing in pretty tight. And so I think we can reasonably expect to have the underrun as I described on the previous slide. Then lastly, I wanted to jump to the schedule, please. Section 5, program schedule. So here we are at the end of the fiscal year. Many of our milestones have been met, engineering deliverables prepared as drafts. We have continued to have a bit of a lag on the subsurface investigation program, mostly related to ongoing COVID-related delays associated with court-ordered entry process. So there was a bit of a lag there, but I think that's where we are this day and age. So I don't think that's entirely unexpected. I do also want to point out that we'll be revising and updating this schedule for the next monthly report to reflect the new FY 21-22 budget configuration and reset on the schedule. So we'll have an update to this, and we'll be starting, of course, back over with a new start at the next meeting or at the next monthly report in August. So that's President Atwater, what I wanted to cover within the monthly report, but I'll pause here, see if the board has any follow-up questions.
Thank you very much, Graham. Let me just double check with Claudia first to see if there's anybody that has public comments on the monthly report. Then I'll ask the board if they have questions. Claudia, do you have any public comment requests?
We have not received any public comment requests.
Very good. Members of the board, any questions about the monthly report? Director Chen.
President Atwater, thank you. Graham, good report. Point of clarification. So on the items that have the yellow as status, so it looks like there's only 2 items that are still kind of outstanding. Is that correct? The entry permits as well as the lab analysis and documentation? Okay. So the other ones were yellow because, I mean, they look to be completed. So they took a little bit longer than anticipated. Was that the reason?
Yeah, they're just directly related. The environmental clearances are directly related to the ability to get in and access those locations. And then the drilling program overall and is directly related to our ability to get in. So all of those were kind of lagging together. It's really highlighting most distinctly in the entry permits. And now we've got a little bit of a tail on the laboratory analysis that we still need to complete. So that's, there's 2 things being communicated there. One is stuff that still has some work that we're still going to complete. And we did extend our geotechnical services consultants task order to allow for completion of those activities as we carry on past June 30th. That's really what's reflected in the orange outlines, but then the yellow in the dots you pointed out are just indicating those that we're kind of dragging behind a little bit, all interrelated though to the entry permits and access.
Okay, thank you.
Director Milbard, did you have a question?
No, I'm
Okay.
just positioning my phone.
Okay. Yeah, Director Palmer.
Yeah, I just wanted a little clarification. I'm sorry if I'm repeating. But so are you saying that even though it had been lagging, we are now up to date on the environmental clearances?
Environmental clearances can only go so far. I mean, they're stuck with the entry permits, just like the drilling and everything else. So we've completed all that we're going to complete for the fiscal year. So it's shown as complete. So it's not lagging or anything like that. We've still got work to do though on the laboratory testing, for instance, and we're still working on some of the TEPs. Just there's a bit of a tail on some of it that we're still trying to work through. And that's what's reflected by the orange bars.
Okay, yeah, I was just looking at the yellow dots, sorry, that were at the ones where the orange bars were not showing lagging. So that was just simply because the clearance, we can't go any further on the clearance this term. Is that the reason why they're still yellow and yet they're showing complete? I'm sorry if I'm being slow on this.
It's not slow. It's a little bit confusing, you're right.
Graham, I don't know if we could hear you. Did you clarified that answer?
I did. So it's a little bit confusing. I apologize. But the yellows are flags for things that were all lagging and connected to the delay in access. But then as we sit here at the end of the fiscal year, we've now completed it. There's just a couple items that still have a little bit of work to do. And those are identified by the status lines.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, anymore. We'll go to 8B and discuss the 21-22 budget adjustment. And I'll turn that back over to the Executive Director, Graham, to present that.
Thank you, President Atwater. There is a board memo on the subject included in the packet. This line item of discussion today, as I mentioned in the monthly report, we're now forecasting an underspend of approximately 2.37 million. And the point of this action is now, as you recall, when we were going through the budget discussions, the budget for 21.5 million does not include any unallocated reserve within the executive office or any of the other tasks within it. And so the plan here would be, now that we've got a pretty good handle on the projected underrun, would like to go ahead and move over 2 million of that 2.37 million into the current fiscal year. And we've identified the locations that we would like to reallocate that to, as shown in the second paragraph there. First, under the Program Management Office, Executive Office subtask, that'd be one location, and then Program Initiation Engineering is the second location. So if you, there's backup also associated with this. Claudia, if you don't mind, could you scroll to the budget details? Let's skip that one and go to the next one. So the first location is shown here. So this is under the Executive Office of the Program Management Office. And so I'd like to move 1.25 million of that 2 million into the undefined allowance task of the Executive Office. So that would increase the Executive Office budget by that amount. And then the next location is down under Program Initiation Engineering. Again, under undefined allowance, would like to move 750,000 of that 2 million into this location. So then if you scroll all the way back up, please, Claudia, to the top line here with the highlighted budget right there. So then those moving that 2 million of underrun from FY 2021 into the current fiscal year budget would increase the FY 21-22 budget to 23.5 million.
Okay. Thank you, Graham. With your recommendation, let me just confirm that we'd like to do a minute order on this.
Sorry, President Water, Senior Director Palmer has a question.
Sure. Now it's just.
It wasn't
gonna
so
ask-
much, yeah, it wasn't so much of a question as I was wondering if for the benefit of everybody, you know, paying attention to this, could you tell us why the 1.25 is best put into the Executive Office?
So at this point, it hasn't been identified for any particular items, and so that's just a place that we're going to park it. We do have some items that we're looking at. You've heard me describe that we have work to do here in the boardroom, for instance, to update some of the technology in here and make it suitable for a hybrid meeting. There's a variety of other similar items that we're thinking about, and so this is a location that it will sit for temporarily until we start to think about how to reallocate it. We'll go through our change process, our typical change process, to then reassign and reallocate that funding, and then we'll update all of the budget tracking and treasury information to keep everything on track. So for starters, it's just to put it into the budget, get it into the undefined allowance category, and position it for future potential use.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions about Graham's recommendation on the 1.25 in the executive, and then 750,000 to the engineering funding? I don't see any other questions. Again, he's requesting a minute action to approve this adjustment to the budgets. We have a motion to do that.
Move we approve?
We have a second.
King can second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Director Chen. I'll ask Claudia, any other questions? Also, are there any public comments on this item?
But there is not, President Atwater.
Very good. Well, I'll ask you, Claudia, to go ahead and call the roll then.
Where's Gladly? President Atwater,
Yes.
Director Millibar,
Yes.
Director Stamera. Director Stamera,
He's muted.
Director Palmer,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Chang,
Yes.
and Director Lamoureux.
Yes.
And
Mine, yes, aye.
Great. Thank you all. We'll move on now to 8C, the SCC update. And I'll have Nasli provide that information now.
Thanks, President Atwater. I'm going to speak quickly just because my internet connection is not great. Sorry, I was just trying to call in. Update for you. We had a good meeting at the end of June on the 24th. Graham went through some updates. Janet Barberi from DWR updated our community benefits framework. And we will be, you can sort of read the ins and outs of it, of course, on the document, and we will be meeting again in September, end of September. The other thing I wanted to bring up was that we had a really good community meeting in Hood, which we hope kind of sets a model over these next few months of how to do outreach in smaller groups. We got great feedback from SEC members saying that there are a lot of people throughout the Delta who are just not familiar with this project or are getting misinformation, and in some cases kind of being blocked from being able to access certain information. So whatever the origins of it, I think we really feel like it's our responsibility to do the outreach to make sure people have the right information to reach their own conclusions, from our perspective on design, engineering considerations. And as I said, the Hood meeting went really well. We have a target list of other communities and populations that we think will be affected by this project, and we'll try to do more of these small meetings throughout. So that's our sort of summer schedule, given that we're going to be slowing down the cadence of the meetings to more of a quarterly basis. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Nasli. I just wanted to indicate, Claudia, there's a lot of background noise. Somebody's
That might have actually been me, President Atwater. I lost
Okay.
connection at my house, so I'm at a coffee shop with a
Oh,
quite a public
okay.
streets. Sorry, I hope you all heard me, but I'll be muting.
Very good. I appreciate that. So, Director Palmer, you have a
Yeah, I
question?
just wanted to compliment Nasli on some of these community meetings that she's doing because they're very useful, and I think it's a good public service to be doing that kind of thing. So thank you, Nasli.
Great. I think Nasli, again, compliments to the good work. Any other questions from members of the board? Seeing none, excuse me? I was just going to ask Claudia if there's any public comments about the SCC update.
President Atwater, we have not received any public comment requests.
Okay, great. Well, if not, then we can move on to agenda item 9 and staff reports. The first one is the General Counsel's report, 9A. Josh?
Thanks, President Atwater. My written report is included in the packet and generally goes through some of the modifications to the executive orders and Cal OSHA guidance that we actually discussed at our last meeting. The one thing I did want to note is actually Yolo and Sacramento counties this week issued advisories related to the Delta variant, encouraging even vaccinated folks to wear masks indoors when the vaccination status of others in the room can't be verified. That's something we'll certainly be watching to make sure we stay in compliance if there's any updated guidance, and of course something we'll take into consideration as we consider transitioning back to in-person or hybrid meetings. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, thank you. And we look forward to doing a hybrid meeting in September. 9B is the DWR Environment Manager's Report, and ask Carrie Buckman to provide that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, President Atwater and members of the board. My report generally talks about the idea that the work on the CEQA process is ongoing. I think I did want to highlight that we're doing a series of technical workshops this summer. So we understand that the environmental impact report is very long and very technical and very challenging for many public readers to get through. So we're trying to set up a series of meetings to help provide background information to make the EIR easier to review. We had the first meeting last night, and we talked about state water project operations and how the Delta Conveyance project would fit into operations. And we talked about how we're going to analyze operations using modeling in the EIR. We had great participation. We had a lot of active questions. I think it went very well, and I really appreciate everyone's efforts for participating. Our next meeting is on August 3rd, and we're going to be talking about fisheries. Then August 25th, we'll be talking about climate change, and September 14th is environmental justice. And just to remind everyone, we are talking about background and information about methods to analyze impacts, but we aren't yet to the point where we can talk about impacts or mitigation. We're just not there yet, but there will be plenty of chance to comment on those on the draft EIR next year.
Great. Thank you. I got a quick question. I saw a portion of it last night, but I was wondering, does DWR on the webpage, are you going to have available those recorded presentations? So when people have questions, like in this case, how the tunnels will operate 6 months from now, they could look it up and say, oh yeah, now I understand that.
Yeah, so we already posted the presentations, both in English and Spanish, on our website. We will be posting the videos from the meetings, both in English and in Spanish, and we'll also be posting a Q&A response list.
Excellent. That's really good. I appreciate that. Any other questions from the members of the board? Seeing none. Thank you again, Carrie. And I'll just double check with Claudia. Is there any public comments about this item? I guess not. Soft silence. Well, thanks again, Carrie.
President Atwater, could you hear Claudia respond?
I couldn't hear it. Yeah, that was,
Sorry,
Sorry.
she did reply that there were no public comments on this item.
that's what I assumed, but I couldn't hear it. So I appreciate that. Just for the record, there's nobody asking for public comments on 9C. Well, let's move on then to agenda item 10. Any requests for future
We've got
agenda
verbal
items?
reports. We've got verbal reports.
Do we have any?
I do.
Well, gosh, thank you.
I mean, what else do you expect? I just wanted to say I did attend the DWR webinar yesterday, and I just wanted everybody in the public to know that you can access these either through the dcdca.org website or through the DWR website if you go to Delta Conveyance. And I'm also recommending that whether or not you are in favor of this project, there's a lot of really good information on the DWR website about the Delta Conveyance, including some little videos about different aspects of it. Another one, this is kind of like a little off, but it's a verbal report, so what the heck. I have been involved with Rotary International, and in terms of a project called Hand Wash, which stands for Haiti National Clean Water Sanitation Hygiene Strategy. And if anybody is in Rotary, it is something to be involved in. They are in very dire straits in terms of their political and social unrest, and water and sanitation become a real issue. However, just as a little note, one thing to remember is that even here in California, we have got over 1 million people who do not have access to clean, to safe, reliable, and affordable water. So, you know, we have our problems right here in California as well. So that was it.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that. Those were one of the big challenges in California is this million plus or minus that don't have access to safe, clean drinking water. Any other verbal reports from members of the board? Seeing none, now I'll go to future agenda items. We've already reported that we're not probably meeting in August, and we're scheduled to meet in September. Any requests for agenda items in September? Seeing none, I think we're ready to adjourn. And with that, thank you all. Good meeting, and hopefully it'll cool off a little bit for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Richard. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a good Bye. day.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.